friends, we're back. My friend Scarlett just made me a cappuccino, and I can live life now. Clear
Everybody needs a little espresso in their day.
with milk and sugar. This one drinks it straight. It's weird. Hi, welcome to the organized edit.
That's fun. This is the type of day that Holly's having.
The honest edit.
There
Welcome
you
to the
go.
honest edit where we organize things. I'm Holly with Organized DFW. This is,
Scarlett with White Space Methods.
and we're partners in crime.
We are.
Today we're going to talk about the time I try to organize my partner stuff, family stuff, friend stuff, whatever. If it went well or if it didn't go well.
Yeah, it's really about the boundaries and taking that into consideration and what kind of tension that could bring.
What's a boundary, Mom? So we've all done it. We've looked into a drawer and thought, oh, we can fix this or this could be better. So we did it without asking. And this episode is about that.
Really about addressing it and what to do about it.
Right. When it's not your stuff and it's not your call. And that is something that we do every session, right? We're organizing someone else's stuff. But they've given us permission to come in and to do it. Mm-hmm. But that's when we get there, we go through a walkthrough with the client and we make sure we have very clear direction on what we're focusing on, what we're not focusing on. And then what usually ends up happening is that you start on a project and then they're like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And then you're the one that's like, okay, we're going to do one thing at a time. Yes. So as women, we are usually the household managers, the primary caregiver. We're the one that's running all the things in our head. And so we know where the stuff hides. So usually it's coming from a good place. It's not like we're trying to control. We're just trying to improve the flow of things. Mm-hmm. We see the inefficiency, especially for me. The inefficiency is like one of the things that drives me bananas the most, and it's an easy fix. Mm-hmm. So I just like, I'm going to organize this and it's going to feel better. But what feels helpful for you can also feel overwhelming and controlling to others.
Mm-hmm. And we see it. I mean, I've totally seen it where, let's say, we're working with the wife and the husband comes home and he goes in sheer panic mode because he had his piles. He knew where things were. He knew what was, important to have out and what was not important. And we just all shifted it. Mm-hmm, and so we try to make sure to ask the right questions. Are they prepared for us being here? Do they know we're going in their space? And that's something you should consider at home or in whatever environment that you're working in as well. Is it a roommate? Is it a husband and wife situation? Is it an older kiddo? I know a lot of the time my mother-in-law, who had a son, because I married her son, he didn't care growing up. Like, she could go in and rearrange his entire room when he was a kiddo. And he was like, okay, whatever, thanks, Mom. Or not even notice, because most, don't. But, living with her granddaughter, that's different. Mm-hmm. Girls like their space. Mm-hmm. And they don't like people going into their space and doing. And so I feel what is just total friction sometimes when those boundaries are crossed or not talked about, or there was no expectation for her to go in there and do something, or no questions were asked for her to go in there and do something.
And I see this a lot with families and how, mom or dad say, no, we're going to have an organizer come in and clean your stuff. And the kid feels so upset and overwhelmed. This happens in my house too. We just reorganized Max's room. And while he is making sense of everything, he's also trying to compute where things go now. So we are organizers and we're high functioning. And so usually for high functioning people in general, this can you can get into trouble with this. Not only just organize, but also like making decisions for other people and, not asking for And I do this a lot as a mom and a wife too. I'll be like, "Oh, this is just what we're going to do," and not even ask for any feedback. So it doesn't always work better. And
Well, that's also something I think to touch on too is that so we have a project coming up, and the parents were really concerned about their kids because one of those projects is doing the kiddos' room. Sorry, my dog is.
we have Nap in here today, and
Yes,
Scarlett's
Napoleon.
upset about it, but I like it.
Well,
So he's going to make noise and show you his butt, and he's very, very cute.
Well, it's funny. He never digs in the carpet, but we're recording. So
Wow.
over there, he's over there digging a hole. And I'm going,
Holly's foot
I just
was
sold
there.
my house. Don't dig a hole in the carpet. And then he's doing it while we're recording, of course, because it's like when you're on the phone, your kid doesn't need anything until you're on the phone. So yeah, anyways, so we have a project coming up. And there's two kiddos sharing a room together, and it's like middle child, younger child. And the room is very, very crowded, very cluttered. They're both trying to express, what they're into and whatever. And they're kind of having boundaries with each other in the room already. Obviously, I'm like educating Holly as we're going because she'll be mostly working this project.
Yep.
But the parents were worried that the kids were going to have a hard time with it. And like us educating our clients when we come in with our method, it's just not all about letting go of absolutely 90% of the stuff and then going out and buying expensive bins. That's not about what we do. And I reassured them. I said, well, pass this information along to them so it makes them feel calm. But also, we're going to reiterate when we go into this session to work with them that, and Holly's really incredible with children, which is why I was like, you got to do this. She's going to go in and say, it's not about letting stuff go. We're just going to prioritize what you want and figure out what you like and whatever you dislike and see if you outgrown some stuff. And, naturally decluttering comes with questions or looking at things, but we want to make sure that they're just comfortable.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a focus on the editing and getting rid of stuff because they don't want to do it at all.
No.
But it naturally happens in our process.
Yeah.
So it's just building that comfort and that trust and that, hey, we're just here to ask a couple questions and to help clean up your room and make sure things are safe when they're packed, because they're moving. So we're helping in sort of a prep on move service.
Yeah. And I think with kids, they don't quite have that executive functioning brain that we have as adults, and some adults have it better than others. But what I'm trying to instill in Max and even my friends' kids, that I have two friends that actually just moved and they have small children, and I've been helping them set up their rooms and make sense of everything. And so it's teaching them that what organizing is and how to declutter and how to ask themselves, do we need this? Does this make sense to have this out? This is a memory. It's taking up space out here. It can go in this specials box. So it's the teaching and what is the word when someone does something and then you see them do it?
It's like guiding.
Yeah, teaching and like guiding them of how this gets done. And so not only with their stuff at home, but then, with their stuff at school or with, eventually their parents' stuff or their friend stuff. My friend came over and he left all this stuff out and now it's too crazy and I don't know where it needs to go. So it's also showing them that they have ownership over their space. So helping kids do this is a really big deal. So I'm excited about this job because I love working with kids. And also there's a moving deadline. So that always is helpful to like get them going. But getting back to like trying to organize someone's stuff without them. So I think part of the problem, if something is really disorganized, it's a control versus ownership. So this is a space that you own and you need to keep it organized. But I want to control what the organizing looks like because my brain goes crazy on it. So that's a stepping back and understanding that, and I do this with my husband a lot. We know about his upstairs and it's chaos and it's all of his art stuff. And I go upstairs and I'm like, oh my God, we got to blah, blah, blah. And he's like, don't touch anything. So it's their system work. So they might have piles of stuff, or they might have stacks or bins, or I don't know. My husband keeps like there's like a giant box and it's like all trash, and that's just where the trash goes while he's doing his art and stuff. And then that goes downstairs, and maybe that doesn't go downstairs every time he walks downstairs. And I need to be okay with that because that's his space. So it's still a system, even though it doesn't make sense in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my husband, he has an executive office in our house. And so it's like a living room, an office, his workout, like bike and weights. And like, that is like legit the room he stays in and day out because he works and he's doing other things, and he paces when he's on the phone, and it works for him. But he's got this thing where he likes to have piles everywhere. So I designed the space, and so my little interior designer brain is so pretty up here and bright and windows, and I go downstairs and whatever, and then months later I go back up because I don't go upstairs often, and because I'm too tired from sessions, and the last thing I want to do is go upstairs when I get home. So it does take me a while to get back up there. When I do, he's got piles everywhere. But that's a system that works for him. And I've mentioned this in another episode as well, is that like, this is like current client stuff. This is a reference point. I mean, he knows what all of it is, and it's like an organized, cluttery pile.
And that's how his brain works.
Yeah.
Right. That's how he likes to have it.
Yeah.
But it drives you bananas.
It drives me bananas, and it can't be hidden away because he's high functioning,
actively using it.
Yeah, ADHD, and he's actively using it, and so he needs to see it in front of him. And he's got very minimal space when it comes to like a desk and things like that. So it just naturally happens with what he's working with as well, and I have to respect that because at the end of the day, he's got to be efficient and he's got to get things done, and that's a system that works for him. Now, do I have him go and grab all those piles and put them in a big pile and take the big pile and put it in a closet when we have guests over or an event or a party? You betcha I do.
And what happens after that?
It comes all back out. But that's our compromise between the two of us, and it's manageable enough to where now I do go to him, when it gets
have a
really
conversation
big,
about it.
Conversation about it. That's nice, and that's like, hey, we got a thing coming up, or hey, these papers that you haven't touched in a while are getting kind of big. Why don't we go through them together, and you can decide what you'd like to do with them. And it's just really asking questions versus saying my system's better than yours, which will cause that sort of friction. Like you're coming at him and then he'll get defensive. That's not my goal. My goal is just to be like, all right, this system works for you. We're really good at compromising because then you put this crap away when it matters most to me, really. But when it does get a little bit out of control in the closet or too much or the piles are too big, let's kind of look at it and see if you need this or you need to file this away.
Right. People aren't resisting the organization. They're resisting losing the control over what they have, and they know where it goes. And so that's why with those clients that really have a big opinion about that, we really work very closely. And again, we want to step back and see how they work in this space. We want to make sure that whatever system or change that we're bringing in, they have full buy-in for it. And then they also know how to, okay, let's try it this new way. Let's try this new habit. And if it doesn't work out, then we can go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
We want the people that we organize for, depending on age and situation, obviously, but like a 6-month-old doesn't need to know where the diapers are, but 4-year-old needs to know where his underwear is, and they need to be able to access it, right? So like we want the buy-in and we want them to be a part of the process. And I feel like with a lot with children, but kind of with everyone, if you make them part of the process and then give options of like, okay, well, we could have it here, or maybe it could go here, or do you have an idea of where it would be the most helpful? That really will help everyone to be successful with the reorg of whatever you're trying to do.
And I did that with my daughter. Like for years, she's grown up with me going into her room and helping her to get things situated. The difference between my mother-in-law's and me is that she goes in and just does it because she got used to that with her son. But with me and having, you know, a kiddo that's a girl, it's a little bit different. You want to give them their space. You want to give them their boundaries. And so I always ask, do you want help with this? Do you know, why don't we look at this together? You know, and she'll tell me to this day, I mean, she's almost 19 years old. Organizing is not her favorite thing to do, neither is cleaning. And so I'm happy to do it for her. But because she's a part of the process, or she asks me, and then I'm used to just going in, asking her a bunch of questions, kind of getting a foundation, bringing her back in, saying, hey, am I on the right track? I've got these questions now. Do you want to try on the stuff? I think you've outgrown this. Do you even like this anymore? And she looks at it kind of in pieces, you know,
Just so much easier.
it is so
for
much
folks.
easier. Right. Because my husband even gets overwhelmed. I hate doing paperwork, but he really gets overwhelmed with paperwork. And I have to give him just like little chunks of it because it really stresses him out. I mean, I'm talking, he breaks a sweat. He's like
Poor thing.
panting. He's like, oh, he's sighing. I'm going, geez, like you're not walking death row here. Like you may get your last meal in Testament.
Yeah.
Like, goodness. And so I have to give him just a little bit. And this is a guy that closes huge deals,
yeah.
like does business that just like,
Well, he's in business brain mode. When he's working,
man.
he's got his brain in this mode,
Right.
and he's got paperwork, he's got things he's got to do. But then when he gets home, he's switched to a different mode.
Yeah.
And so when
me
you're
handing
coming to
him-
business, home business, it's a different feel for
he
him.
can't do it, you
Right.
know. But if you just start small with them and be patient and walk it through them, and like you said, allow them to be a part of the process, because ultimately it's their space.
Right.
It's not yours.
Right.
And so how would you know what they want or what they don't want? You know, you have to ask those questions.
Yeah. And I think, again, with small children or elderly or people that are kind of coming in new to the world or to this space, really giving them some autonomy of like, this is what has been functioning for us, but you can make this however you want it. Especially with kids, really teaching them what it means to organize or what it means to declutter, or showing them how them having input and them working the system then they can feel successful about it and they can feel confident in it. Like, for instance, now Max brings home his art stuff. We take a video of him telling about it because that's the cutest thing. And then he's like, okay, Mom, I'm going to go put it in my art box. And I'm like, cool. He knows he has an art box now. He knows that's where all of his special art goes. I don't have to remind him. And I can say, if it doesn't happen on Friday afternoon, on Saturday morning or Sunday, I can say, hey, buddy, your art is still here on the counter. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go move that. And so that gives him the control, and that puts it on him for him to decide, do I want to keep this or do I want to toss it?
And he probably feels empowered that he's
And
going
then he
helping
feels yes.
mommy out, and he's doing a big boy thing.
Yes,
And
exactly.
100%.
So I also want to mention that when you're helping someone organize and it's a shared space, like let's take the entryway. Okay. Like let's say that you have 2 kids and a partner. And so you guys have like 5 cubes, and then you put your shoes there and you hang your book bags there or whatever. So everybody has their zone. So instead of you taking on this whole entryway is my situation and my responsibility, you give everybody a zone. You have a shared place, but everyone is in charge of their things. This also helps with the executive functioning and the autonomy as people are growing up, and even in your household. So you don't have to be in charge of your partner's stuff, and your partner doesn't have to be in charge of your stuff. And so there's systems that are impactful for everybody, and just work on your zone. So like, for instance, when we are having family dinner, everybody has a chore to do to help set the table. And so again, instead of me saying, Max, go get the placemats, I can say, hey, Max, it's time to prepare for dinner. And he already knows, okay, that means I'm in charge of napkins and getting everybody's waters or drinks on the table. Jim's in charge of something else, and I'm in charge of something else. And so that helps me not have to constantly tell everybody what their task is, but then it's a shared space. Everybody has their zones. Everybody has their stuff. So I can just say, hey, dinner will be ready in 15 minutes. Let's set the table. And then everybody knows what to do.
I will also say that, like, if you're new to organizing, or maybe it's like your first home together, or you're newlyweds, or it's whatever the case might be, maybe you're just getting started with like, okay, things are getting a little bit out of control. I want to fix it, or I need some remedies and some solutions. Start in a space that maybe you operate in mostly and everyone else just kind of visits. Start with that.
Good plan.
Because it builds that rapport that you can do it, and that you can build a system that is easier to learn and find things, and there's a lot of clarity, and they have real ease with it, and you can really test out what works in those spaces for you before going into someone's ultimate space that's theirs,
right.
And that way they can kind of see even a repetitiveness, throughout what you're creating, and they're already kind of adopting it because they have a respect for you, and maybe like you're overseeing that space before it's like, something that they adopt for theirs.
Right.
I will definitely say that when we go into, new client homes, that if I'm working with the person that called us and wants the organizing, again, it's usually the wife, so I'm going to use that scenario. I'm really going to stay out of the husband's dominant zone, because in my perspective, the husband needs to see the community spaces or her space, or maybe it's kind of a lighter area, but everybody goes in it. They need to visually see first that system is working, it's easy, and then it brings their guard down. And they feel a bit more relaxed, and they're like, oh, this is easy. Oh, this is easy to understand. And there's less friction for me because I've been working with the wife to immediately just go into his space, and I just know his name. I don't know what he looks like. I'm looking at pictures on the wall and going, okay, that's George. But I can't hear his thoughts. I don't know if he's tall, if he's short, if he's left-handed, right-handed, what he prefers. Is he a golfer? Is he a businessman? I have no idea. So I would say start with something that you kind of oversee. Get that system in place. That allows for everybody else to see what you came up with, and if it works or not. You could trial and error in that space too, and really get it up to a elevated state, and then take on with someone else maybe something that's bothering you a little bit more, but it's more of their space.
Right. So in closing, don't ever organize your partner's stuff without asking. You want to shift from this is driving me crazy to understanding what is happening in the space first, and collaborating with them to figure out the best system that's going to work for everybody. And so it's not this is going to be better. It's this is what works for everybody, because something that works for just one person doesn't work.
No.
So be kind, go slow.
Yes.
Call us if you need to mediate.
We're not looking for perfectly organized homes. You want something that's functioning for everyone. Everyone will be happy. It'll be easier to operate for everybody. A lot of compromise. And it's just really a system, like you said, that doesn't work for one person, but it works for the entire family. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for our next episode on The Honest Edit. Bye, guys.
Later.